Welcome to another episode of the Pierce Brothers. I'm Jake. Today we're going to be taking a look at a really cool gun. This is a Pedersoli Lightning carbine. So they make these in 40, or they made them in 45 Colt, 357, 3840, stuff like that. This one is the high grade carbine version. So, you know, engraved receiver, high grade walnut wood. And this one was imported by Taylor's and Company. So be sure to check out Taylor's and Company. Before we get started with the Pedersoli version, though, let's give a little bit of history on the Colt Lightning. So, the Colt Lightning was made from 1884 until 1904. There was about 200,000 made. They made them in 3 different frame sizes. They made them in a small frame and 22 caliber, medium frame, and this is a medium frame here. Those were made in 3220, 3840, and 4440. They made them in a large frame as well, and those were chambered in bigger cartridges like the 5095 Express. Like I said, there was about 200,000 made. Most of them, there was almost an even split between the medium and small frame guns, with almost around 90,000 made, 89,000 and change with both of those production numbers. The larger guns, if I recall, there was a little over 6,000 of those made, so they were not nearly as popular. So, when talking about the Lightning, though, you'd have to kind of take a step back to the Colt Burgess rifle, which was a lever action. Those were made, I think, starting in 1883, and they were made for 16 months, and 6,400 of them were made. And supposedly, there was a gentleman's agreement between Colt and Winchester that they'd each kind of stick in their respective lanes. Winchester would not make revolvers, and Colt would stop making lever-action rifles. With that being said, Colt saw a way kind of around that agreement with the pump-action rifle. So now I think in those days they called them a slide action, but so Colt actually ended up buying the patents for the Colt Lightning rifle from a dentist. Can't remember his name. Elliott. Something Elliott. I think it was Dr. William Elliott, something like that. But he was a dentist. He actually had 130 different patents to his name. Again, another Old West dentist that was disgruntled and didn't like dentist work, I guess. Kind of like a Doc Holliday. So yeah, he designed this. He actually designed other guns as well. One of his more famous guns was the Remington Derringer. You know, the gun that most people associate with the word Derringer. It's that little double barrel Derringer made by Remington. And so yeah, Colt bought the patents for this. Colt's advertising for the Lightning rifle was really neat. Some of the advertisements said nothing was fast as Lightning, and you know, of course, besides their rifle. And I think another advertisement, if I recall, it said something along the lines of lightning never strikes in the same place twice unless it's a Colt, something along those lines. And just advertising in those days was on a whole new level, whole different level when compared to today's advertising. And so let's see. So the original Colt design could be slam fired. So if you just held the trigger down and pumped it, it would fire every time the gun went back into battery. And that's kind of one of the reasons it got the name Lightning, and because it's supposedly a very fast-firing rifle. Now, they do have a very short pump throw, so it's just a very short little action there. Not like a shotgun with a much longer throw to them. They do, to load these, you actually have to open the action, otherwise the loading gate is locked. They do feed and eject, eject out the top there. They kind of feed almost more like some of the later rifles with more of an angle, you know, kind of like the 92s and the Marlins and that type of stuff. It's not a straight feed design like the Winchester 73s. These were fairly popular for Colt. Again, like I said, a little under 200,000 made. They never really did catch on quite like the Winchester products. Particularly, the 73 was really a dominant rifle from that time frame. So we're going to actually take a look at this compared to a 73 real quick, just show you guys kind of the size differences. So as you guys can see, length of pull between both these rifles, so stock length is virtually identical. The big difference though is in receiver length. So the Lightning, same with the Colt Burgess rifles, they both had a very economically or efficiently sized receiver. So quite a bit smaller than the Winchester 73 and this, you know, kind of a long, big receiver to it. And as you can see, both these have 20-inch barrels, but there's a couple-inch difference just from the receiver length between them. So that was one plus for the Lightning rifle. So I guess in carbines and rifles, it was just very efficiently sized receiver. So let's take a look at the Pedersoli. So there's been quite a few manufacturers that have made replicas of these. Just to name a few, Taurus made one. I think they called theirs the Thunderbolt. AWA made one. Uberti, Pedersoli, USFA, and of course the original Colts. Of all of those, the Pedersolis actually have a reputation for probably being the best of the bunch. Now, when Pedersoli looked at making the Lightning rifle, they went in with the goal of making it the best functioning Lightning ever made. So, and honestly, I used to own a Uberti, and it was a decent rifle, but the Pedersoli is 10 times the rifle of the Uberti. It functions way better. I've never had a feeding issue, injection issue, nothing. And they did change a few little tweaks to the design just to make it more reliable, you know. So changed the feeding angle a little bit. They use, for example, these you got two little bars on each side here. They put 2 screws in there just to keep them nice and rigid. The original Colts and most other, I think every other replica just had the original Colt design with 1 screw. And they do that just to keep the feed lip. They're little feeding bars, and they also act as ejectors. And so it's just a bunch of little things like that. Now the Pedersoli also does, you cannot slam fire this. It does have a trigger disconnect, and it does have a locking mechanism. So when the gun is cocked, you can't rack the slide. It actually has a little disconnect bar here, almost like a shotgun. So you can pull that back and then open the action. So, like I said, this one's their high-grade gun, so very nice walnut stock. I prefer the carbine length guns. I used to have an Uberti, and it was the short rifle, and I like that gun, but this, I've always wanted a carbine. They just handle better to me. And yeah, so I picked this up recently, and just thought we'd do some shooting with it, show it off to you guys. A couple other things, so this does have a gold bead front sight, and it does have the adjustable carbine rear. And this, of all the carbine, you know, sliding ladder sights like this is the best I've ever seen. If you look right here, it's got little detent things there, and it's got a detent in the slider itself, so when you get it set on a particular range, it stays nice and solid. It's not gonna be moving under recoil. So very, very good job, Pedersoli, on that. So let's just show you guys loading and how I do it, because it's like I said, it can be a little awkward. Let's grab a couple cartridges here for you guys. So like I mentioned before, you have to load these with the action open. They have a very small loading port, and loading these, you have to get the cartridge started at a fairly steep angle. What I do, I get them down to about that length there, and then just use my pinky and push them the rest of the way in. So once you get the hang of it, it's fairly simple. I love this rifle. But I've never had a failure to feed. So once the action comes open, if there's a cartridge there, it's gonna feed. Like, it feeds so smooth, I don't even feel it's feeding. The Uberti I used to have was every now and then you'd kind of get you'd hang up a little bit and you'd have to come back and then go forward again. This one is just, it's been flawless in every regard. So very, very well done, Pedersoli. Okay, guys, so I think that kind of wraps up the video. So I guess the question is always, if I was in the Old West, and I can only have one rifle, what would it be? And as much as I like and would want to pick the Lightning, I would still probably pick my Winchester 73. Those rifles are so fantastic, and with a very well-proven reliability record. I love the Lightning. It's just, I would still probably pick the Winchester. So one thing I forgot to mention, there are some photos, and I'll find these and put in the video, but so there's a few photos of these being used in the Mexican Revolution. Also, the San Francisco Police Department ordered 400 of them for their police department in the 1890s. So I just think that's kind of cool. So anyways, thanks for watching this video, and we'll see you guys next time.